Hey guys, and welcome back to the Blaze TV podcast. A little different today, as you can tell. We're in person. We're in the heart of the Skydome Arena in the Coventry Blaze dressing room. It's Ed Kimberley and Stu Coles as always. And on this one, fresh into the country, our coach, our friend, Kevin Moore. Kevin, welcome back home. It's been a heck of a busy summer. I mean, you pretty much got the whole roster built while you're over in the US. So you've been very busy while on your vacation. How's the off season been for you so far?
Yeah, it's been a really good off season. I wouldn't say there was vacation. You're on the phone a lot. You're talking to agents and players, but for me, going back to America is about connecting with the people I love, the people I don't get to see when I'm over here for the season, and I did a heavy dose of road tripping to do that, and it was just truly incredible to see my family and friends, and recharge, but also highly motivated to make sure that we have a good roster set here for the season.
And we're going to talk about that roster mostly throughout this conversation, being on the cusp of the 2025-2026 season. But it's been a little while and the dust has settled since we last caught up at the end of last year. Just give us your overall assessment of how your first year in Coventry went.
It was a really good learning year for sure. I think there were a lot of things as a head coach that you get told you need to be ready for it until you're digging your hands in. You don't totally appreciate it, whether it's weird situations in games or just having the right play drawn up at the end of the game if you had to pull the goalie, or you could go on and on, even just problem solving your way around just general things that go wrong, whether it's you're late for something or so it was a really good learning year. I think on the ice I was really proud of the identity we set. I felt like we came into the year wanting to be aggressively competitive, and we did that. I think that was really clear early on. So I was really pleased with it. I think when it's your first time in pro being a head coach, when you're the assistant, you have all these ideas, right? And I put them into place, and I think some were home runs, and some, I'll probably never do again. But I was happy with the group and happy with the results by and large. I mean, I'm too competitive to accept fifth place as good, but I understand. When the regular season trophy is the most important one, sometimes that is a success in some ways, I guess. I don't know. I've struggled all summer to put that into words, and even now I am. But I guess the point is I want more. I'm not satisfied, and I don't want to be satisfied.
I think one of the things that was very, very clear was the core that was there. And let's start with the imports, because that plays a big part in any elite league team. And in terms of the 25-26 season, being able to retain a good chunk of that's been really important. Grayson Constable's coming back, Alessio Luciani's coming back, Kim Talberg, and Matt Robson between the pipes. All really, really important pieces of last year's puzzle, and presumably this year's as well.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly hope so. My mentality from as soon as the season has ended, last season has ended, is that last season's in the past, and we're here now, and it's about this group and this year. So, to have this year's version of them really excites me. I'm really excited to see Grayson take a step in his second year pro. I think, he played such a mature game last year that sometimes you forgot it was his first year, and I know firsthand how hard Luch is working. I saw it on my visit to Michigan this summer. To see him take another step, to see him be comfortable in the room again is going to be, for another year is going to be really exciting. Same with Matt, Kim, you can go on and on, right? So we emphasize so much the development side of it in terms of you can keep getting better no matter what stage of your careers you're in, and from our captain who's a super vet to Grayson who's a second year, and everywhere in between. I'm really excited just to see the growth that they bring.
How did that process go to bring those guys back for this year? Was that a relatively early in the season conversation that you had, or how did it all pan out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had relatively early conversations with most guys we wanted to come back, and I think we talked learning process as a head coach. I think that was something that certainly didn't love. Like I think once again, like we're always trying to be present and to kind of go into the future like that in season is hard, but you have to do that. That agents are getting calls from other teams all over the world. So yeah, I mean, it's really as simple as saying like, hey, I love you. Hey, I'd like you to be back. What's the most comfortable process for you? This is what the process is for me, and you kind of land on it, hopefully on the human side of it, where I can just do it person to person.
You put a lot of emphasis on the Brits, and when we were talking before you'd even coached a game for Coventry, you were really emphasising the drive to develop the Brit core, and whether that's David Clements, who had his testimonial year, playing a long time as a pro, Zane McKenzie, Jack Hopkins, and Archie Hazeldine, all coming back for next year, having been really early in their career. Still a very important core, and they went through strides throughout the season, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, truly, like coaching the Brits is one of my favorite parts of this job. Particularly, maybe the young ones, with Archie and Jack, where, it just, they're so hungry to get better. They want to get as much information as they can. They want to, find every edge they can, and like that just motivates you as a coach to want to put more into them. And yeah, they're just a pleasure to work with. Like truly, like it. I mean, I could go on examples about all of them, but like it starts with David. It's so awesome to just see him want to be all in on himself and take more steps and take more responsibility and just not have an ego about him, really, right? Like you can do that when you've been somewhere for 10 years and he doesn't have one at all. And, it was a really proud moment at the end of the year to see, the three of them get to go to camp with GB, to see, Clem play in those games, win a medal. And, yeah, like I said, I could go on and on. Like Archie took such big steps in learning the little details of defending. We know the passing is there. We know the offensive flair is there. But to see him buy into playing a harder game, I'm excited to see his growth. And same with Jack. Like I think there was a huge step in emotional maturity that led to him finding like a balanced game. And like, it was cool to use him in a variety of different roles and get that buy-in from him, and I'm just really excited to see where he takes it. So, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about the three of them. I could go on and on about Zane and just like his willingness to be the best team guy I've ever been around. Like truly, like anything the team needs, he's there. Like I think, it is cliche, and you try not to throw it on the kid, but like every coach wishes you had a whole team of Zane McKenzie's, right? So. Yeah, they're a pleasure, and it's one of my favorite parts of the job is my connections with them.
And I know you were taking a lot of pride in what the only other Brit not to come back in terms of the outskaters in Brindley Caps, and wanted to try and get him to a position where he could play at the highest level possible. I think you were probably hoping, frankly, Kevin, you could have him for a little bit longer, but leave him for the right reasons to go on and play in the BCHL. And yeah, we really do wish Brindley all the success.
Yeah, and that's as a teenager, that's a really tough situation to be in, right? And I thought he did great, like truly. Like there are some moments, like he had a game against Dundee during the year where he was just unbelievably good. And I'm just excited to see where it goes, and I know we're going to keep in close contact while he's over in Canada, and the coaching and the development doesn't stop with him. And the same goes with Will Bray, who I loved coaching last year. Like Will's a goalie who I think has a ton of potential, and same thing. When it gets announced where he's landing, we're going to be really proud of him to see him take another step and keep in touch. And yeah, just top to bottom. And I can't even forget Billy. I know we didn't see Billy a ton, but like I loved working with Billy. He's just hungry to get better, and yeah, we're excited. I'm just excited all around with all the young Brits. I think it's an important part of our team.
Let's go on to netminders. Matt Robson, he's going to be partnered up with Dershawn Stewart, someone you know very well from the collegiate days. Talk us through that decision of having the two imports, because that was last year's starting plan. It kind of unraveled for various reasons relatively quickly. Matt ended up playing a lot of hockey last year. Was maybe balancing his load a little part of the decision to run two imports?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think at my core, I believe having 2 imports is important. Like I really do. But I think there is a balance to it. And, like I keep saying, I learned a lot last year. Like, Matt Robson proved he can play every game. Like, he certainly can. Will we do that this year? No. But, we're kind of back to where we started last year. We got Matt Robson and a former Adrian goalie. So I think you have to evaluate what you have, and it's not unprecedented, right? Like, Matt Greenfield plays nearly every game, and they manage that load really well for him. And I consider Matt Robson in the same category as him in terms of top goalies in the league. So yeah, I'm just excited to have a really solid goalie room. Dersh is somebody who's like really hungry to get better. We Zoomed the other day and went into some film and talked about some things already that he can keep working on the next month. And he's hungry to learn from Matt. He's hungry to take it all in and take the next step in his career. And I just think there's a lot of talent in him, that needs to be sort of molded, I guess. I know he's very self-aware in his game and the acrobatics he can bring. And I think my role is just to make sure he keeps his identity, and we can just add some efficiency to his pre-shot stuff. And in that, he's working in tandem with Matt based on the schedule and how it goes. Because I think that's an important part of our league too, is like, our schedule is wildly different than it was last year. And there's some weird twists and turns that, depending on what happens in the weeks leading up to it, that's going to determine more of the plan versus making a plan, in August here. So, it is, you do need the insurance for sure. And we're happy to have it again. And, but on the same token, I think, we were pretty confident in Will if we absolutely needed to use him last year. He was growing as well, so I'm excited about our goalie group.
And for the D core as well, I think that's the area where we've only got one left. But let's just start with I suppose the coup signing, if you want to call it that, in Colton Saucerman from the Sheffield Steelers. Look, having a guy that's had such a good career as he's had, that has won a Grand Slam at this level very, very recently, what he brings to the table is so invaluable.
Yeah. I mean, we want a winning mentality. Competitiveness is something that's just really valued by me, and he's as competitive as it comes, and he has that winning DNA. And I think that's important. I think that's important, for your vets to bring that. And there's just so much in his game that's exciting. Particularly we needed. I wanted 2 power play quarterbacks, one being a righty. Last year we had 2 lefties. So having, Ivan and Colton, I thought solidified that for me. And yeah, he's just he's a world-class human. And I'm excited to have him here.
For sure. I mean, we've already had a chat with Colton. He's eager and ready to get going, and you can tell he's just completely buying in to what we're doing here. Having players that are familiar with each other is quite important. You build it as it goes on, but to hit the ground running. I mean, we joked a few times about the Adrian boys and the Princeton boys last year. You've got the Jacksonville guys on the back end this year in Ivan Shukarov and Connor Russell. Talk to us about those two, and is that pair something you might keep together, or is anything on the table at this point?
Yeah, I think that's something that we would like to start with for sure and see. Certainly anybody can play with anybody, and if we get data that says otherwise, then we steer away from that. But man, Ivan's somebody I've really respected and loved for a long time. He's a guy who I think embodies like the modern defenseman, and he's got a ton of skill. He makes really good reads at the right time to jump into the play, but defensively he knows how to play hard. He knows how to have good body position, knows how to have good gap. I think he has good feet. And there's a lot of guys out there that are on long-term lists, and he was a long-term list guy for me, and I'm just really grateful that he wanted to take his step over here with us. And we had lunch in Chicago this summer, and it was really cool just picking his brain about life and his family, what he likes, people he's played with, talking UMass a little bit. He's just like an infectious guy, like truly. And then obviously Russell was a suggestion from him. You see his name on a spreadsheet, right? You're running your analytics and you're like, okay, like he fits it numbers wise, and then you just start talking to people about him, like, and wow, like the things they say about him as a person, as a worker, as a teammate, on and off the ice, right? Like he's going to stick up for his teammates on the ice. Off the ice, he's going to be really supportive. So having Ivan give me that lead, I had a great conversation with Ryan Kuffner, who was a former Princeton player, and Cuff had nothing but good things to say about him, and it was just one of those things where it just made sense. Like, and he's a funny guy. I don't know. I could truly, all these guys this year, this podcast might be too long if you get me going, but like, I know we had the Kenny Powers jet ski thing going on, but he, even before I signed him and I was on the fence, and I was honest with him on that. Like I got a text from him, like he's wearing like recovery boots, like training hard, ready to be in Coventry, and like, he's just a guy you want in the room, and he's a guy you want to go to battle with. I mean, it's I've talked about this off camera sometimes. Like he's an OKG, like he's our kind of guy through and through, and that familiarity definitely does help. I think people do forget that guys moving over here for the first time, it is hard and it is different, and to at least have an immediate buddy is a good thing.
I'm going to hand over to Stu in just a second to talk about the forwards, but one more from me on the back end is we look bigger. I don't know whether that was by design. Sometimes, you have attributes that, okay, you purposefully go after. You talked about having Ivan and Colton being righties on the power play, running that, for example. Was adding a little bit of size something that you wanted to do, or was it just how the cards have fallen?
Yes and no. Like, yes, in the sense of like that's sports, right? If you can get somebody who's big and fast and skilled, that's better than getting somebody who's small, fast, and skilled. But you're not just going for big lugs who can't exit the puck, who can't play an up-tempo transition game, who can't defend smaller, faster forwards at times. So yeah, you're always looking for that, right? And I guess the way I organize things is like you hope for that, but like I don't know. I do like a color coding system, and I won't get too deep into it, but like if you're in the right color range, that's what matters. It's not necessarily about size. It happened that I was able to get the size that I wanted, and but you're thinking about chemistry too, like not just pairings, but like if the pairings have to get blown up, can you slide with different guys? Can you connect that way? Always thinking about special teams too. Like it doesn't help you if you have guys who don't know how to penalty kill. I'm a believer that you need to have guys who have good reads in that. You can't. It's not as easy to teach as I think maybe it seems, or at least in my opinion. Because you want guys on your toes and trusting their instincts, and if they don't have that instinct, then how are you on your toes? I think kind of similar to last year. I think you asked that question with the forward group last year. It just sort of happens that way as you have an idea of what you want and you go.
Stu.
Yeah, see, you've mentioned about familiarity. You've mentioned about winning habits and winning effort and pairs as well. And on the forward lines, you brought in a couple of players from Belfast, Grant Mishmash, Elijah Bariga. How did that come about, and sort of like how do you think they're going to fit into Coventry with the whole sort of style of play that we've developed here?
I think they're going to fit in great. You talk long lists. Grant's another guy who's a long list guy. I did coach his brother Parker at St. Scholastica. So you heard stories about his ability, right, North Dakota and so on. But he was a guy that I love his compete. I love his creativity. Like I'm a coach who definitely emphasizes letting the guys play free as long as they're playing hard. and like I don't have to coach him to play hard, and the things he can do when you free him up, I think at times are going to be those ones that pull people out of their seats. So the fit there was kind of exactly what I wanted, and Elijah the same thing. Like these guys were just really well coached through their careers, right? Not just in Belfast where they were well coached, but you keep digging back, and I don't think you can go wrong with a guy who played for Eric Lang at AIC with Barriga. I really don't. Like, he's one of the best coaches, or was one of the best coaches in NCAA at AIC, and now he's moved on to a different school, and that was their identity as a team, right? Is compete, and you see that in him as well. But same thing with Grant, like the creativity, the ability to kind of transition through the neutral zone and either make a play and beat a D to the net or just himself beat it. Like the fit really was pretty natural, and it absolutely helps that they're guys who have won, right? Like I think that's not the sole reason they were recruited, but to be able to give that experience into the room and help, and because the pressure ramps up week to week, and that's hard to manage, and they know how to do that. So yeah, I mean, I guess how that came about, even long recruiting processes for sure. I spent $80 round trip in Ubers to go see Elijah at a mall in Los Angeles. And we had a great conversation at a coffee shop, and it was exciting hearing his thoughts about hockey and what that was. And same with Grant. Like I said, it was a few-year process here with him, but I'm excited to add both of them.
And last year with the forwards, they seemed to sort of fall into pairs in some ways. That there were a couple of partnerships that kind of stood out. Presumably, whilst they've come over from the same team, you're not necessarily pigeonholing them as a pair. There may be a pair, they may end up on different parts of the lineup. You've kind of got an idea about that, but presumably flexibility is the key right now.
The flexibility is really a key for everything with me, because like you get injuries, people need to be able to slide, and I don't know, they're not necessarily going to be a planned pair here, and Elijah's going to play center this year, which he didn't play a ton of last year, but he played more of that in Dundee and whatnot. So yeah, certainly I do things by pairs a lot of times, and then find the third complement, but with the forward group, everything's sort of open.
And I think now, if we move on to some of the other forwards, the fans in Coventry are pretty well versed now with NCAA Division III players. It's well known the sort of the quality that they can bring. And you've got another couple of guys who've had some really big D3 success in Artie and Ruffin. Those two guys are going to be huge for the Blaze this year.
Yeah. I mean, start with Sam, because I know him, very well. Like, Sam is a guy who I think just needs to be in a place that he can be confident in himself, and at times at Adrian, he and that was a very deep team over his time there, but at times he was the best all-around player on those teams, and a really valued leader, and he got hurt at the end of his senior year, fifth year, so I think his step into pro was maybe a little uneasy because of that. So he's just a guy I really, in my heart, believe in. He's very, very versatile. I can move him around in a variety of different places. I can play him in the middle. I can play him on the wing, which is the plan to start anyway. You could PK him, you could power play him, you could fourth line him, you could first line. He could do literally anything. And I think it's just making sure that he's in a safe space to feel confident in himself, and he can fly. Like, he can absolutely skate. And with Artie, I just, another long list guy, like, really impressed with him. Guys don't transfer from D3 up to D1 and go half a point a game or whatever he was close to in that. Like, it just doesn't happen. And then you get text from the coach at Hobart saying he's one of the best kids I've ever coached in my life. And that's a 3-time national champion who I respect a lot. and you just watch his game, you talk hockey with him, he's just really smart. Like, it's almost one of those situations where, like, he's so consistent in his game that, like, you may forget to be wowed by him because it's just that consistent. You know, and bigger body, good at puck protecting. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like both these guys competitive, both these guys well coached. Like I said, Coach Taylor at Hobart, great coach. Coach Krug, you know, formerly at Adrian, great coach. Like, I'm getting guys that I don't have to teach. I don't have to get them up to speed to the pro game. They've already been coached like pros. So, yeah, and I'm glad D3's getting its due. Like, I really do. Like, you know, Adam and I, when I worked at Adrian, used to talk a lot how we were D1, and you know, there's only the number's going to be a little bit off, but like 120 NCAA hockey programs, period. You know, compared to the 500 Division I basketball programs, and you know, I think that's something that, you know, the kids who go to Division III hockey, the dream's not over to play amazing pro hockey, as long as they keep those habits and they keep that mindset. And you know, those two kids and Luch and Dersh and Zach Heinz from last year, and you know, it's funny. I mean, that's my running joke this summer has been, in some ways, you know, Artem not an Adrian guy, but like, sometimes it's like the Cub Adrian Blaze Dogs, because like Matt Thompson, right? You know, Cam was here for a brief time. It's pretty funny that way. But I'm happy the D3 guys are getting their due, and I'm happy I can help them, you know, in their next step.
When we spoke to Artem, he was very keen that he was going to mention the final between Hobart and Adrian to the rest of his new teammates. Maybe just the ones, I think, and then it'll put it to one side.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he should keep doing it. It might motivate them to be better this year and take it to another level. Yeah, I mean, those are two. That was a battle. I think I was in Indy watching that on, you know, before a game, and it'll be cool. It'll be cool for them.
And sort of young guys who are competitive and skate aggressively, picked up a young British guy, Max Stewart from Milton Keynes, who kind of fits that mold as well.
Yeah. Mac, I'm excited to get to know Mac even more. Like I said, we had a good Zoom. Well, him and I had a good Zoom last week, and digging into the details of his game, and he's just pretty relentless. You know, like every young player, there's some habits he needs to clean up, and I think he'll do that quickly. And you know, I'm excited to see where he finds chemistry. You know, excited to see, you know how he is as a PKer in preseason, and see if that's something he can carve out for himself. There's just a lot there to work with, and I think there's a good hockey brain. Yeah, I'm very excited for Mac, and I'm excited to get to know him a little bit more.
Yeah, and so young guy who's, you know, coming into the Blaze for the first time on a full time. Mac has guested here once previously. To someone at the other end of that spectrum in terms of games and experience in Mike Pelech. I mean, he doesn't really get much more experience in terms of playing the most ECHL games ever. I didn't know that. So that's, yeah. So how do you see him? Was experience something that you wanted to add to the lineup this year?
No, not by design. It was going to be OKGs. Age didn't matter. I think with Mike, what I valued was he's a net front problem. Like, he's not good at net front. He's whatever another level of that is, like, truly. And I don't think there's a lot of guys like that in pro hockey at our sort of level. You can't. There's not really much you can do, and his hand-eye coordination is incredible with tipping pucks, and I just felt like that was a new look that we could add. That you know, not that we don't have guys who can be good at net front, but like that's just a different stratosphere in terms of that. And then the face-offs. The face-offs were the big thing. Like, it doesn't matter what side, he's not losing a lot of draws. And he understands our league. I think sometimes that gets maybe missed new guys who might be really good face-off men in the ECHL. It's different rules in North America on face-offs. You know, different leagues have different standards in terms of what they accept in the dot and whatnot, and so just to have a guy who I knew was going to be really sound in our league on draws was huge. And he's just another great guy, like really great guy. You know, it comes from a family with brothers. I felt like I could relate to him that way. Obviously, we're pretty similar in age too, albeit him being a much better hockey player than I ever was. But he, it wasn't really about the experience. It's about what he is as a person, what he is as an athlete. I mean, and if he's that athlete at 45 years old, I don't care. Like, as long as you can bring it in, he absolutely can. And yeah, I'm excited to have him too.
And you mentioned like the key in being at face-offs, you know, one of the key reasons. There's a lot of guys on the roster this year who have played as a centre. Was that ability to have different people in different situations by design? Like, you wanted to have options at centre, or is it again that it just happens because of their other attributes that you've ended up in that position?
I think a little bit of both. You know, plan down the middle right now, it's all lefties. You don't necessarily want that. You need good righties. But I felt like Ruffin and Hopkins are guys who can win faceoffs as righties, can both play center. You know, so I didn't feel like it was going to be like it was planned for. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a blind, like, oh, we got all lefties and I don't know what I'm doing. You know, so to be deep that way is important, and then it certainly helps. Then you can shift different ways if there's injuries, or the guys themselves can run it on the ice, right? Like, hey, I'm struggling on this one. Let's bring in the righty on his natural side and go that way, and I can give some freedom to the players on that. So, winning draws I think is really crucial to puck possession, and I wanted to be a little bit better in that regard this year.
And one of those other guys who's got that experience at centre who's coming is Matt Gleason, who, if you look at his background, you look at the sort of like the bio, the instant comparison is Luciani. Yeah. How similar are they as players, or is that a bad comparison? And is there somebody else that he's more like?
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad comparison, but they're different on how they do it. You know, Matt's more kind of blunt force. Like, Luch is a little more slippery, and but I think the thing that stood out with Matt was there's a lot of untapped offensive potential. That there were some data points of guys in the league, not just Luch, who just really just blew up point-wise that you wouldn't expected. And not that I'm putting that expectation on him, and him and I have talked about that. My expectation is for him to be himself and play really hard. But making that step to pro, making that step to our league, like, yeah, there are some guys within the league, and including Luch, that you go, yeah, okay, they're having success. I think this will work. So there was a little bit of that, but like he's another guy who's just really hockey smart. Like, knows how to reload above the puck, knows how to get inside of a lane on a forecheck, knows how to roll off of a D at net front and find a way to bang at a loose puck. Like, there's so much there that I wanted to dig in with him right away, and you know, hopefully use his IQ to I guess help him take big steps in little details.
And now, just before I pass on back to Ed, one more slot left to fill in that sense. What are you looking for to kind of round out the forward group?
A right shot who can play on the power play in a lot of different positions. You know, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not. Like, that guy's signed. We got it done this week, and that particular player, another intelligent player, who can, you know, in a rolling power play, go to bumper, be on the flank, roll over the top. Somebody who I think is good at kind of finding soft areas and getting lost, which is a really important skill for for some guys who can put the puck in the net. And then I was looking for consistency, and this player's been consistent for many years in the league he's been in. So yeah, that's what I was looking for, and we got it.
Stay tuned for another announcement.
Well, I was going to say, and I kind of maybe missed this one off on the back end there. Unless you're about to wow us with, we've done this as well and you just not told anybody. We're 1D short at this point. What are you looking for to fill that last spot?
Competitiveness, consistency, hockey IQ. After that, it's just got to be the right personality. Somebody who I think really wants to be a part of what we do, be a part of Coventry, be all in on, the city, the fans, the room. So, yeah, it's in the works.
Good stuff. There's another relationship that you're going to have to build. I mean, I suppose you have to do this anyway, right? You'll have 20 guys in. Relationships you're dusting off that you've not had for a while, guys that have come back from last year. You've got a new right-hand man as well as an assistant coach in Colton Bates. You, as a head coach with your assistant, you always have a very concentrated relationship with the amount of hours you spend together. Talk to us about the process of recruiting Colton, because I suppose that's a little bit different in a way to how you recruit your players.
Yeah, a little bit. I threw a job posting out there and on a coach's site in America, and I got a lot of resumes back, a lot of impressive resumes, and a handful of them stood out where there was a whole process, right? And I think for Colton, he was a guy who at a young stage in his career has done it all. He learned from a former NHLer who was his former head coach, in Winkler, and he just, his passion was there too. Like he felt like a throwback to me. Like he was a guy who just like wants to be around the rink, wants to talk hockey, wants to learn and grow, and I love that because I saw the hockey intelligence right away. I saw the coaching talent, right? It's there. Like he jumped right into coaching after playing. He had his cup of coffee in pro and then went right into it. So there's just a ton of potential, but there was also a ton of just talent already there that's going to help us. Like he's not somebody I'm going to have to train, so to speak. And that was similar to Zach Vanell. Like I didn't feel like he was a guy I had to train. It was just like, here you go, like go run, go be yourself. And Colton's the same way. And just talking to his former college coach, kind of maybe similar to like an Artem, he just was like, this is the best guy I've coached. This guy's unbelievable. Like I'm going to keep in touch with him the rest of my life. And those are the people you want to be around. And I'm big on relationships and I value relationships. So I'm thankful I have people I can call and learn about Colton and some of our players. But if a coach is telling me he's got a good relationship with this guy, that's also telling me Colton's a relationship guy, and that's kind of what I need.
Rightly or wrongly, you judge a coach on their record, how the teams they've coached have done. Winkler in the Manitoba Junior League, they've been pretty good since he's been there too, right? So did that play a part of it at all when you were talking to him? And, what was his kind of contribution there? Because obviously Zach Vanell did a lot of the video work with you. I know that was something you did in Nottingham a lot. He ran the special teams at times. What was his contribution in the MJ?
I mean, you might have to ask him on this. I have a pretty good idea that he did nearly anything and everything. I think he wore a lot of hats. I know when you work at levels like that, the workload away from the hockey is significantly more than what goes on, at pro. And I know he had his hand in everything. I know they had a coaching change at one point, and he was kind of a bridge guy in that. Like, I bet you if we really asked him, the list is probably like 3 pages, like truly. But he's comfortable coaching D. He's comfortable coaching PK. He's going to have an expanded role in terms of face-offs. So, yeah, I mean, he checked all the hockey boxes, but then, he grinds. He really grinds on everything else, and I think it'll be really cool to see where his brain goes with like special side projects this year, because he's freed up to have a little more free time.
Is there a plan for how you guys are going to work together? Because if I remember right, I mean, it feels like a long time ago now. You and Zach approached that kind of fluidly, and then you kind of figured it out as you went.
Yeah, it's fluid. Like I have expectations of what I need to get done, what we need to get done. I have expectations in terms of our own relationship building, but I think people work best when they're comfortable. And you don't want to be put in a position where you're doing something that like you have to come to the rink at 5 p.m. Like I'm a pretty flexible person in terms of my own work habits, so I think there'll be a give and take. Like he'll make a compromise here, I'll make a compromise there, and we'll find the best process for us. But yeah, I mean, I just want to sit in a room and talk hockey with him, and bring in the players and talk hockey with them, and yeah, well, I think that's part of the president and the problem solving on things is sometimes you can just like live in the moment and just navigate as you go.
Coming back to you as well, I mean, we kind of joked about this at the start of the session a little bit, and we've talked as we've kind of gone through about the recruiting process, the coaching process. You two are developing, you two are learning. What was one thing that you took out of 2024-2025's recruitment into this year in terms of a lesson that you kind of learned and something that you tweaked coming into this season?
That's a good question, Ed. That's not something I've readily thought about. You know what? I think I leaned harder into questions that I would ask the guys during the year, like stuff that like I was curious about the players that we had signed last year that I thought helped me understand them as people. I think I leaned into asking those questions more into the recruiting. Like it's not something, it's something I did last summer for sure. But I think I made more of a point of like, if there was a question I needed to know an answer to, I had no problem slotting in like okay, oh, by the way, last question might be a weird one, but like I need to know, and creating conversation that way, and just kind of figuring out what makes a guy tick and different things that I value, and and that was an easy way to sort out like I don't get a good feeling about this guy even though I love the hockey, or even like this is valuable information. If I get him signed, I'll be able to coach him a certain way. So I think I leaned heavier into that, and I was a little more curious longer. Like I think my recruiting calls on average were probably 15, 20 minutes longer than last year, which is a lot, because to build a team, it probably takes about 4 times as many calls as signings, right? So it's, yeah, I would say that would be it, really thinking hard on that.
In terms of the coaching and how the whole match night experience comes together, what are the changes do you think there are going to be? I mean, we look outside of the rink, the ice has been painted, that looks fresh. I believe there are some talk of screens going up as well, so that's going to enhance the match night experience also. In terms of the back office, is there any changes that you're thinking of implementing that you can talk about, or is that all hush hush?
No, that's hush hush, because like I want the players to be wowed. I want them to be able to, and same with the fans. Like any changes, like, yeah, I don't know. This is maybe a rabbit hole we don't go down, but like I'm such a big believer in like let's still have surprises, right? In sports, like everything's on social media, everything's broadcasted, like the best part about sports is sitting on the edge of your seat and not knowing what's going to happen. And like, I know the pull back the curtain is a really big part of like being a fan. Like we all love the 24/7 shows, but like to me, there's something about like you show up and that feeling just smacks you in the face, and you're like, wow, like this is new, this is great, I love this. And that's the hope for the season, right? Like the hope for the season is that all the fans get behind this new group of guys, and they're just wowed by the total newness. Like, and it will be different. It's going to totally be different than last season, and that's a good thing. And like everything in life, some things will be different good, some will be different bad. But like, my hope is that everybody's just on the edge of their seat and just like getting smacked with like a ton of emotion that they can then put back into the team, and we're feeding off that energy and we're going. So, you know, yeah, there are some new things, but certainly like let's save that so we can get some like raw emotion out of the arena, out of the players, and bottle that up.
Well, I don't know whether you've read my script and considering what you said, how well this is going to translate, but we're going to do it anyway. Pick one player that's going to surprise the fans this year and why.
I mean, I think someone like Luch is somebody that needs to be talked about more. Really, like he's a guy who's got the heart of a lion, and I just think that the maturity in his game might surprise, for sure. Like I believe in that kid as much as anybody I've ever coached, and to see a really mature version of Luch, I think is going to be really cool. Maybe not surprising, but certainly cool. Yeah, and I'm excited for that.
A couple of weeks left until the guys start flying in, then another couple of weeks until we hit the ice for the first time. Now that you're back in Coventry, you're back in the office, settling into the new digs. What does the next kind of 2 to 4 weeks look like for Kevin Moore?
It's just making sure everything's right for when the guys get here. Like making sure that the first impression of this new season is really positive from day one. So it's, you know, some of it's boring office work stuff for sure. Like I absolutely hate making training camp calendars and formatting, and I don't know, Excel's not my favorite thing in the world, but like, you know, other parts is coaching the guys. Like I got Zoom scheduled with all the new guys and shortly soon with all the returners, and I just want to dive into the coaching and the relationship building, and maybe that's my reprieve from the boring office work. I don't know, but you know, and I've done that for the last few weeks, and I've loved it, and I just we'll keep doing that. We'll get to know Colton in person and create our working relationship when he gets here. You know, yeah, it's just it's going to come quick, and there's so many little behind the scenes things that, you know, I think go unnoticed, and including from, you know, our amazing staff like, you know, Ethan and Megan and Rob, and you know, just from housing to equipment to you name it, like you know, so anything I can do to support them and what they're doing, will be a part of it, and you know, I'm forever grateful for the stuff they do. So yeah, it's there's a lot to do, but it will be great, and you know, then we get to do the fun stuff.
Kevin, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. It's always a great conversation. And guys, we really hope you enjoyed another edition of the Blaze TV podcast. And I can actually say this now. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.